webinar. So we'll get started now. So see, the topic for today is how to be buying off market and pre-market properties and get the best deal for you. Okay, so we'll start with the presenters, like who I am and who Deepak is, so that you would understand whom you are listening to, a little bit about our background, who we are, and why you should be listening to us, what our experience has been. So myself being the founder of InvestorAid, so I founded this company around now 2.5, 3 years ago. So we have been in the business of helping people buy investment properties. So we are mainly dealing with investments, not owner occupier at the moment. So along with myself, I've got my colleague Deepak, so who is again a buyer's agent working with myself. So he has been working since the start of the business. So we both have equal experience now, very, very similar experience in helping people. We would have bought probably 150 properties by now or more. Like we don't even remember the count. So a little bit, I'll first introduce myself, provide you a bit of glimpse about who I am, and then we will move on to Deepak. So this is me. I came as a, say, in this beautiful country of migrants. I came in July 2017. So that was the time when I moved to Australia. So I've had an experience of 10 years in IT back in India, and life was there comfortable. So I'm not coming from a very uh, family which is lacking financially. So we were comfortable there, honestly, but the desire to do something better got me here. So initially, again, using my experience, I got into IT. So we have spent, I think, initial five years or so in IT. And then I was working at my at Commonwealth Bank as a data engineering manager in my last role. So, and once when I was there, just a second. Yep. So when I was working there in 2022, there was a car accident that has happened. So exactly on the day when I completed 5 years in the country, and that was a life-changing moment for me. So I started realizing, like, because I was not very fulfilled in what I was doing in my corporate role, right? So I was always, because by that time I had built a portfolio of 8 properties while working to nine to five, and that actually got me hooked into like the job even more. I thought like I need to stay into the job uh, to be able to pay the mortgages, though the mortgages at the time were not as huge because the interest rate was lower. But after this accident, I started realizing that even if I would have been dead at that point in time, my mortgages would not have been paid. So I should not be bound by my fears, and that led me into something which I was really passionate about. So since I was building my portfolio in the background while in my 9 to 5, that gave me enough experience and courage to be able to do that for others. So I've helped a few clients while I was working in my 9 to 5. That was kind of a buyer's agent role, but I didn't even myself knew that buyer's agent was a profession that time. So after this incident, I started doing my certifications, and then we started this company in November 2022. So a little bit about my past experience. So while working at Combank, I bought my first property in 2019, mid 2019, which was my principal place of residence. After that, in and being a single learner, like my wife was not working, I've got 2 kids. So yeah, in my first property itself, I maxed out. So in January 2021, I somehow was able to buy my first investment property, which was my property number 2 in Brisbane. At that point in time, I also again maxed out, and this property was again with a non-banking lender called Resimac. So I've been knocked down by multiple brokers that you can't get a loan, but then there was a broker from eastern suburbs in Sydney who told me through Resimac you can get a loan, and I was able to buy a property at $460,000. In January 2021, I bought this property and then again maxed out. And then I had to get my wife into a job at very minimal wages so that I can get more borrowing. And she being 6 months in the role, then in July, August, and September, I ended up buying 3 more properties in Perth. So I was always looking for next one property, but then as soon as I had got my finance approval on the property, I just started chasing the next one, and as a result, I ended up buying three in 3 consecutive months. Then I had to stop for a while and then I was introduced to a mortgage broker who told me, who basically educated me on the concept of using trust structures to be able to continue to borrow. And then as a result, using trust structures, I bought another property in Mackay in March 2022. In May and June 2022, I ended up buying 2 more properties in Townsville. So we were at June 2022 with this, and in July 2022, I had that accident. So, and that was a turning moment when I started this. And after that, I had to pause because I started business. I left my job, and when you start your business, you need to be in business for a certain period of time to be able to get the mortgage. So I had to pause my whole journey, and then I ended up buying my property number 9th, 10th, and 11th last year. So in August, I settled on a property in Westmead, and in October, I ended up buying a property in Melbourne, and then in December, I settled on another property. So in the 5.5 years between I think June 2019 to December 2024, I ended up buying 11. So my current portfolio is sitting at 10, over 10.5 now. And with the latest purchase where I'm building at the moment, once it's completed, I'm building a duologue in Melbourne. So once it's completed, it will be crossing 11 mil. See, out of this, I think at the moment I have got more than $4.5 million in equity, if you are interested in understanding the debt position. Yeah. So then out of these purchases, remember the initial 8 purchases were done while working in my 9 to 5. So when someone thinks like it's the business income that can get you far, I would recommend that that's not always the case. I have come across multiple people who just throughout their journey have been like, I came across through propertychat.com.au, various platforms where I have met people who have gone all in their 9 to 5. They retired from their 9 to 5, and they ended up buying 35 properties in whatever time frame that was, right? It might have taken a couple of decades, but the outcome was really, really comfortable for them. So now I'll hand over to Deepak to, sorry, just give me a second. I'll just keep moving between screens. So this one, okay, so sorry. Yeah, this is another one. So my story has been published on a few forums and platforms, and I've done a few podcasts. Due to the limited space, I can only cover screenshots of a few. So in April 2023, my article was published on news.com.au. This was all about my personal journey while I was working in my 9 to 5. This was the time when I just started my business. Right. And then I have done a few podcasts. So if you're interested, you can reach out to us. You might have our emails, or in the end, we'll share more details. So you can reach out to us. We can flick the links to these podcasts. And this last podcast with Mike Motluck, I think it gets a lot more in depth about my personal journey step by step. So that could, like, you might have something to learn from that if you're interested. And now handing over to Deepak here.
Yeah,
Introduce.
thanks, Rohit. Hey guys, my name is Deepak Rana. In August 2016, after over a decade in India's telecom industry, I moved to Australia seeking a better lifestyle and new opportunities. I initially worked in IT roles, but soon realized they didn't offer the fulfillment I was looking for, wanting more meaningful career. I transitioned into real estate and I joined InvestorAid as a buyer's agent. Over the past 2 years with InvestorAid, I have helped secure numerous property for our clients, whether they were starting their property journey or expanding their investment portfolios. My goal is pretty simple: is to create long-term value for clients by helping them build wealth through smart investment property. That's it for me, Roy. Over to you.
Perfect. Thank you. So you might have noticed that we have got pretty similar background. Deepak was my college friend. We have done our engineering together. And then after that, and that is the reason why our experiences and the tenure of the experiences have been pretty similar. Perfect. So I will now move on to one of the examples. See, I don't want to bore you with too many client stories. I just took one random example to show you what we have done, and then we'll deep dive into the topic straight away. So this is one client who is based in Doonside. So this client has only got a single property, which was principal place of residence for him in Sydney. So we met through, he was introduced to us by a past client of ours whom we helped and who was very happy with our service. He introduced this client, and this client was at the time working in Macquarie Bank. So he moved into an IT contracting role where he was using his company structure to for working, and getting a loan under a company structure was a bit complex. So he was told no by a broker. So he came to us. We introduced him to another broker who was able to secure him a loan using his company profile. So we bought this first property for him in October 2023. So this property was bought in a suburb called Bushland Beach, which is a beachside suburb in Townsville. So we bought this property. See, initially we agreed at a price of $500,000, but by the time we got to the contract signing, we were able to knock off another 7 grand. So 5 grand one and then 2 grand using building and pest issues. So we bought this at 493. So current value that we checked yesterday on this property is sitting around $687,000. So it's nearly 40% capital growth in 18 months that we have achieved. Rental appraisal that we had at the time of buying this property was 600 per week. We haven't checked with the client on what he's getting. It's definitely going to be more than this. So the rental yield for him is going to be better than this. Then using this some equity from this property, and then he had some more deposit, we ended up buying another property for him in January 2024. So this property is based in Perth. So the suburb is called Huntingdale, which is 19-20 kilometers south of Perth. This property again, I think it's an over 600-meter land size. The first property is also 600-meter land size. So the second one I think is 650 or something. From my rough memory, and we secured this property. The vendor was expecting, this was the time when the property market in Perth was very, very hot. So I knew this agent very well, and I got the exclusive right initially, and they were expecting 540. So the agent rang me that this person is retiring. He's just moving out. Like, if you want to grab this at 540, let me know. Otherwise, I'll be putting it onto the market. So I told him, man, I definitely need this because we were looking at comparable. This property wasn't the best in shape, but it really had good bones and structure. So this property, like if it was recently renovated, so someone would have spent 40, 50 grand. That's what we discussed with the client. This property would have been around mid 600s at the time. So when we were looking at this property, we started with 540, then started using excuses, and finally we were able to get a contract signed at 515. Since we were not competing any against other buyers agents or other buyers here, and we were getting that exclusive access, we had more negotiation powers, and we kept pressing the agent, and the agent, like, we had a very good relationship. We still have got very good relationship. Current value of this property without any renovations is sitting at 735. So I suspect, like, if we spend 50 grand in renovating, this should be crossing easily $800,000. But based on its existing state, it is again around 42.7% capital growth in 15 months. Rental appraisal at the time when we bought it, it immediately got rented at 650 per week. At the time, I think it's going to be higher because we are talking about 15 months earlier. So yeah, these two properties we bought for this client, and then we got property number third for him. This property was again in Townsville in May. By this time, he had equity in both of these purchases because the property number second was just bought very much undervalued. You could have, like, with CB or some other lender who just do the valuation very soon and don't need to wait certain time frame, you can easily get an equity uplift. So he used the equity from property number one and property number two to get this one. So he didn't pay any deposit from his pocket. This property was again bought in Kirwin 422 configuration. This was, I think, over 700-meter land size with a pool. We secured this property at $530,000. It's been 11 months now, and the current value is sitting at 650. At the time, it got rented at 640. I'm not sure about the current rental, but the rents have been rising. So but bare minimum, it should be at 640. Otherwise, it might be higher than that. Then in June, the next month, he had some deposit and some equity using a combination. We bought this property again in Perth, in north of Perth, in a suburb called Butler, which was a beachside suburb. So in this suburb, we got this property again, looking at comparables. Everything was being sold in high 600s up to 700. We were able to grab this deal at $610,000. So the current value of this property is sitting at 770 and 26.2% capital growth in 10 months. Rental appraisal back when we secured it was 650. I'm currently not sure. So using these properties, like if we look at his journey, this is only one of the many clients that we have helped. So his total equity growth in all these four properties by now is around $700,000, higher than any property that he would have purchased for. So this is the benefit of investing correctly. You need to be buying the right asset type in the right locations at the right market cycle timing. And our market cycle timing was very, very favorable for all of these. So again, one of the many clients. So for this client, I bought 4 properties. We have got nearly 6, 7 clients for whom we have bought 4 or 4 plus properties. And we have got another doctor client for whom I bought 4th before we were in the process of buying 5th. So we are just working with their broker. And then we have got, I don't even remember the count, how many clients for whom we have bought 3 and 2 properties. So yeah, we will now move on to the disclaimer part. So Deepak, over to you.
Yeah, before we move further, guys, I would like to read the disclaimer. The information in this webinar is for general informational purpose only and does not constitute financial and legal, tax, accounting, or property advice. It has not taken into account your individual objectives or personal circumstances. Before acting on any on the content, we strongly recommend seeking advice from a qualified and independent professional relevant to your situation. Thank you. Over to you, Rohit. I think we are good for the rest of the slides we have.
Sure. Thank you. Yeah. So as Deepak has mentioned, yeah, don't take any of this. Like this is just informational, educating people on what we have learned along the way, like with our journey. So this is just purely informational. Okay. So now we are getting to the topic, what is an off-market and a pre-market deal, right? So we will get started. So what is an off-market deal? An off-market deal is a deal which is not listed on the sales portals like realestate.com.au or domain.com.au, which are the common sales platforms here in Australia. And off-market deals, sellers have got no intention of listing it online, right? So these properties, if they don't get sold, like they have got no intention of listing it online. So why seller choose off-market properties? There are basically two reasons why they choose it. One of the reason is that the seller want to save on the marketing cost. And like if we deep dive into that, they want to save on the marketing cost for primarily two reasons, I would say. One of the reason is that they just want to get rid of the property. They don't want to be spending because probably the condition of the property is not as good, right? They want to minimize their cost of selling and they are just wanting to get rid of that property, right? That is one of the primary reason. Sometimes they are not in the financial position to put any money into the prop or have as minimal as a cost, right? So yeah, so saving marketing fee is one of the primary driver for this. And usually I have seen, like based on again our experience, when we are talking about these off-market properties, these properties usually are not so great because they are saving on their marketing cost for either the property is not presented well or they are not willing to spend any money even freshening it up for sale. So usually these properties are not the best, but I'm just not eliminating them. Like a few out of 10 are still worth considering. Like if you stack up your numbers, there is opportunity because this is not being listed onto the market and is being sold through network of agents or through email marketing. There is still a good opportunity if you can get a good price. So everything could be a good buy if you get it a good price, right? If it makes sense. The other reason why sellers choose off market is for privacy reasons. This usually, again, I'm just telling very generic statement here, but this usually is in higher price points. Like we are talking about million plus price points where sellers don't want their friends, neighbors, families to know that they are selling, and it could be for again various reasons. But like most of our bread and butter deals where we are helping our clients build their portfolios are 600, 700. So privacy in most cases is not the reason for them. So this is an off-market deal. So a pre-market deal. So pre-market deal are transactions that occurs after a selling agent has signed a seller's agency agreement, but they are yet preparing the property to go to the market. So these are the pre-market deals. So if the seller gets the right price, they are willing to accept that offer and save on their marketing cost. But if it doesn't get sold in that pre-market phase, it gets listed online. So each deal typically takes 1 to 3 weeks to each property typically takes 1 to 3 weeks to get ready for the market. In some cases, it could be longer, right? Depending upon the amount of work that has to be done. But typically 1 to 3 weeks because they might have to get the photographs done. They might have to get any maintenance repairs. They might have to get the videography done. Sometimes they have to do the staging for the property. So it just takes that time. And most of the purchases that we do at the moment, we are doing pre-market than off-market because all of these properties are good. They are getting it ready, and once a property is getting ready, the vendor is already prepared to invest that money into the property. So we always use sometimes special conditions in our contract to get them to fix all these items before settlement, whatever they are planning to do. But in this case, they still save on their marketing cost because they have got a buyer before putting it onto the sales portals. So now the key differences between pre-market and off-market for clarity. Again, by definition, off market is which has got no intentions of listing onto the market. Pre-market is which will be listed onto the market if it doesn't get sold within the time frame, right? So that by definition, pre-prod is sold without ever being publicly listed. This is in the preparation phase before public listing, right? So in off market, seller do not intend to list publicly. As I've said, here it will be listed if not sold timely. So time frame for off market can be flexible for weeks or months, right? For pre-market, it is and see, as I said, when I say time frame, like it means the property can stay off market for as long as it takes for it to get sold, right? Because they have got no intentions, but pre-market phase has got a much shorter time frame. Then purpose again in off market, it could be privacy, but in many cases we have seen that it is just saving the marketing cost or the extra expenses that goes with selling property online. Pre-market again, pre-market is usually the prep time. They are doing a soft launch of the property. This gets shared with again their database of buyers or network of buyers agents that these agents work with. So seller motivation again, seller wants a quiet sale or seller wants to save money on marketing. That is a seller motivation for off market. For pre-market, they are prepping the home, but they are open to early interest. And there is a very, very common misunderstanding. Like people use these terms interchangeably. Like they all, like every time you see, they say it's off market deal, but once you deep dive, sometime it is a pre-market deal. So it's very good to understand the differences between the pre-market and off market deal, because that really helps you move forward with that. Okay, so now we get to the part, like now I have actually explained the differences between pre-market and off-market. I will be now letting you know what you should essentially be doing or how to get ready before buying, right? So the first thing that you should be understanding is understand your financial positions. So speak to your mortgage broker or the lender if you're working with them directly, get finance pre-approval sorted and know your budget, what you are willing to invest. Say, for example, you have got pre-approval of a $2 million. Is that the real budget that you're willing to invest in, right? So getting a pre-approval is one thing, but then understanding your willingness or your preferred budget for this purchase is again super crucial. And factor all the cost in. Like there are additional costs with the purchase and it's not just the purchase price. So understanding that is also very helpful. Then second thing that you need to be thinking about is the clarity on your objective. Clearly define what is the why behind this purchase. Are you wanting to buy this property for living in, or are you wanting to buy this for investment? The reason is because we keep talking to so many people where they are wanting to buy it for investment, but they may move there in the future. That is what we keep hearing, and which I think is not the right thing. I always keep telling people, man, clarity is power. Because if you end up with a dilemma now at the time of investment, say for example, you want to buy something as an investment today, but tomorrow you may move in, then in that case, you are actually not buying either of the good assets. Like you are making a compromise in the investment grade assets because you are now putting an owner occupier hat in and you are looking at so many owner occupancy reasons. But then if you are now putting an investor hat in that purchase, then you are also looking at numbers, while for owner occupier, there are other things that may be important, right? So having that clarity, always invest with clarity. It has to be super clear to you what you are. See, situations can always change. What you can't control, you can't control. But at the time of the purchase, the more clarity you have, the better decision making you can do. The third one is educate yourself on the market. Research the target regions that you're willing to invest in. Because in real estate, it is very simple to make money. It's not super complex. You need to be following the market cycle timing, get into the markets where it is either in the early phases of its growth or has been growing for some time, but has not really doubled in the last 3 years, right? Because if something has grown very significantly, then the likelihood of it doing similar growth trends in the next 5 years, 3 years is not that great, right? So understand your budget and also understand like whichever region or suburb you end up selecting, that your budget can buy you something there. Picking a suburb based on data and your research, though it could be the best suburb, but if it is offering a $2 million dwellings where your budget is only $800,000 may again not help you. So getting that with clarity is very important. So then fourth thing that you need to be understanding is identify your key criteria. Outline the top priorities like location, property type, growth potential, and understand what your negotiables and non-negotiables are. Because there is no concept as perfect property. And if you see something perfect, it might be accompanying with gazillion dollar budget, right? So just need to be very mindful of what your negotiables and non-negotiables in this purchases are. So these are very critical steps for you to be doing it. So now we are getting to a thing called buyer's brief. So what is a buyer's brief? Buyer's brief is basically noting down your requirements very clearly so that you can start heading into the right direction. So when we say buyer's brief, we are noting down high level property requirements. And it is a quick snapshot of what you're looking for. So clear buyer's briefs help selling agent quickly assess whether they have or know of a property that fits and shows them that you are serious and well prepared, right? So before you are reaching out to selling agents trying to source properties, have a buyer's brief clearly ready. Because if you ring an agent that I want a property, they will clearly be asking you what your budget is, what your requirements are. So they need you to be a little bit more specific about your target property. Because if you are clear, like, man, I need a 4 bedder property with 2 bathroom on 600-meter block with a bigger backyard or whatever the requirement is, they can then start mapping your requirements to the properties that they have got or are basically targeting to get in the next couple of weeks to months. So what to include in the buyer's brief? So the first thing is basically the budget. You need to understand what budget are you working with. When we work with our clients, we usually ask them to, like, with respect to budget, 2 questions. The first question is, what is your preferred budget, which means what is the preferred amount of money that you are willing to spend, and what is your strict budget. Like, say for example, you are getting an opera house for 780. Like, is it below your, like, is it under your strict budget or not? Because anything over your strict budget, we even don't consider that as a candidate property for the client, right? So understand, like, say for example, if you get the best property in the planet, like, beyond what budget are you not willing to exceed, right? And then understanding your preferred property type, like, is it house, is it townhouse, is it unit? Usually for investments, we always say if you can afford a freestanding homes, there is nothing better than that. But again, this could be subject to so many other variables. Then with respect to the configuration, like how many bedrooms, bathrooms are you targeting? Then you also check what is your land size preference. And then when you are talking about land size preference, you also need to sometimes look, again, depending upon your specific requirements. Sometimes people look at properties with bigger land component where they can do subdivisions in the future. They might be looking at corner lots where they can easily build granny. They might be looking at older properties where they can do value uplift. So there are a lot more strategies that you can go through, right? Then you can also you need to understand your location preferences, if there is any. If there is none, that is even better, at least for investment, right? Because if you're not restricting to the geography that you're living in, you have got a lot upside potential there. And then the strategy goals, as I discussed earlier. So you want to understand like the properties that you're targeting. Are you looking for properties with future subdivision renovation potential, or is it just a long-term buy and hold? And then, of course, the age of the property, because not everyone is comfortable buying properties which are 70 years old, right? And then your build type preferences, if there is any. So this clarity will be very, very helpful when you go out in the market and start sourcing properties on your own. Why buyer brief matters. So there are 2 critical benefits of having a clear buyer's brief. The first one is you make the agent jobs easier. So a person will be willing to help you when you are making it easier for them to help you, right? So when you are clear about what you're looking for, selling agent can immediately start mapping your needs for properties they already have or know are coming up. You're saving them time and helping them help you, right? You are seen as The second reason is that you are seen as a serious buyer. A detailed brief shows that you are well prepared, committed, and not just browsing. So when you start talking, man, I need a 600-meter block with 4 bedroom home, not older than 20 years old, then they clearly know that you are very well prepared and ready for the purchase. Because understand, from selling agent perspective, they keep getting a lot of calls from people who are just interested, who are just curious to know about what if how they can buy it. They really have got no intentions of buying, and sometimes they're not even financially ready, right? So but if you are so clear, then that gives them a confidence that builds trust, and agents are more likely to prioritize you when a good opportunity comes up, especially off market or pre-market. Taking action after preparing your buyer's brief. So now you now know what the off-market and pre-market properties are. You have clearly documented your buyer's brief. Now, what to do next in order to source these properties? The first thing that you need to do is collect real estate agent details, right? You need to know their names, their phone numbers, their emails, right? And you can easily find that on their official websites. It's a bit tedious, but there are certain steps that you can do because we keep doing that, and hence we know how to do it. So on real estate portal, you may not find it because finding an email there is very tricky. So you have to go to their official websites to get that. The second thing is start reaching out. Send your email via brief, right? So there are again multiple ways how you can do that. You can send them one-on-one emails. Like if you have collected 300 agent details, it will be very tedious to do that one-on-one. You can just not put their name, put every email ID in the BCC and send them a mass email. The downside of that is because since it's not addressing to them, they are not addressed in hi, dear, whatever you write, then it's not personalized, which basically again increases the tendency or the likelihood of them ignoring that email. Because as a real estate professionals, even us, we keep getting gazillions emails each day. Then build rapport with the agents. You have to follow up with them. So if you're just sending an email, you are missing out a very critical piece of any transaction, which is the relationship, right? You have to be following up with the text message and a phone call with them. That highly builds your trust, and a single phone call or a text message may not be enough. So once you start ringing an agent twice every week, then in a week or 2 weeks time, you'll start developing that rapport, right? And that also shows that how committed you are to make your next purchase. And see, it is always like if you, if you want to be on top of mind of them, the agents, when you need them. So it is always good to be sending those text messages and phone calls, doing phone calls. So when a property is shared, conduct a comparative market analysis. So do the fair price estimate based on the similar sales in the area. Again, this is a very critical thing for you to note. Like when you are looking at the value of the property, you should not be relying on RP data, CoreLogic's RP data or price finder. That's what usually banks also use as a benchmark, but banks are a bit more smarter because they then conduct a physical valuation, and then they engage valuers to do that, right? They look at comparables. But if you want to value your property or understand what should be the fair price for this property, you need to be looking at the sold section of sales portals for properties which are similar and have been sold recently, then sold 6 to 12 months ago. So there is again a way of doing a fair price estimate. Because if you keep relying on RP data or price finder, and say, for example, and understand how this is nothing but a machine learning algorithms, right? So they basically get trained with their comparables data, and these comparables data come from titles office. And titles office get that data from when the settlement happens. So say, for example, in the end of April, if you're signing a contract today, you might be settling towards the mid of June. And when you're settling in mid of June, there is another lag of 30-40 days before this data gets fed to RP data or price finder data models. So you might be looking at a property in July, August, and it is picking up a comparable data from today. Doesn't really matter if the market is stagnant, but if the market is moving 10-15,000 each month, assume 15,000, 3 months delay means you are looking at a data which could be off by 45-50 grand. And that basically, like, you would always keep wondering, and I'm talking about markets rising high, right? Like which are increasing in value. So imagine a market like, say, for example, if you were talking about Melbourne 12 months ago, the market was declining fast. So you can actually offer a property based on its RP data value, but you could have overpaid because again, the data is 3 months lagging and it has not factored in the actual decline, right? So understanding the fair price is very, very important for you when you are doing a comparative market analysis, right? And then also you need to be asking the right questions with the agent. Sometimes you can, like, once you do it a few times, you basically get better at that. You need to be understanding the vendor motivation flexibility and why they are selling it and the time frame that they might be looking at. Because understand, so I'll probably take a few examples to educate you better on this. So say, for example, if I am working with a vendor who are going through a separation, which by itself is a very horrible phase, right? Now for them, a certainty in the deal is far more important than the dollar value. So if, say, for example, you have put a $700,000 offer, but you have got a finance clause which is again putting on certain more conditions in the contract against someone who is putting an unconditional offer or just any less conditions than you at 690, then the vendor might be picking your offer, the other offer of 690. The reason is because first thing, they don't want more stress in this process. They just want something which is more certain. Second thing is they don't want to be interacting, because when the sale is happening, the partners who are again having a bit of a tough situation have to be interacting in order to sign it together. So which is what they are wanting to avoid, right? So understanding this is just one of the examples. Someone who is wanting to retire, right? Or someone who is wanting to upgrade or downgrade, they might prefer a longer settlement. For them, again, they don't want to be homeless. If you offer them a 90-day settlement time frame where they've got enough time to be able to find something else, then they would be looking at your or a rent back or lease back clause. They would be looking at your offer more favorably than just looking at the price. And there are so many other scenarios that you can look to. So understanding vendor situation is very, very important, right? And then you prepare offers based on, again, the property, the competition, and the vendor needs, right? You prepare the offer terms, not just the price, but the terms. Our email is probably 2-page lengthy when we are sending it to the agents. And then submit your best offer with confidence, right? So say, for example, if and in many markets, you would see vendor underquotes, though underquoting is a crime, but it's very difficult for proven. So it keeps happening every day. So if someone is asking $500,000, understand what the fair price is, right? So understand very clearly and what the fair price should be, and don't lowball, because if you lowball, the vendor might stop responding to you at all, because they understand that you are not a serious buyer, and you would even lose the opportunity to be on the negotiation grounds or the table. Yeah. And then during this process, stay in touch with the agents throughout the process. The second thing, if you miss out, which will happen eventually, we keep missing out on a lot more deals than you guys, because we are dealing on so many properties each day and week, right? So request a feedback from the agent to improve for the next opportunity. So say, for example, you missed out on a property today, you check with them. Once the property has gone under contract, they will let you know. If you ask again the right questions, they may not let everyone know, but if you do some rapport building, they will let you know, man, why you missed out, what was the reason why vendor picked up the other offer, and that will keep educating you. So again, just telling you out, we are not smarter than you. My brain could be working at half capacity of yours, but the only reason we are able to do it efficiently is because we have done so many reps now. We have done it. If we have secured 150 properties, we would have probably missed out on for 750. So it's just that we have done it so many times that just keeps improving your skills. And then again, keep the relationship going for future deals. If you have missed out on a particular deal, just don't burn the boat there. Just don't burn your relationship, because you never know, the next property that you might like or is best suited could be with this agent. And during this process, when you were negotiating on the first property, you might have developed some relationship with them. They might know that you were serious buyers because you were asking for feedback. So for the next property, they might just give you that first opportunity, right? You never know. So they never burn a relationship. Okay, so now telling you a little bit on how do we source properties internally, right? So we have just shared a screenshot of our CRM, how we send emails to the agents to source pre-market off-market properties. It keeps happening quite often. So we basically create a smart list in our CRM, which is an automated system. So in CRM, we not only maintain client details, but also the details of these real estate agents, right? So for Perth, we might have 400 plus agents there. So it has taken us very considerable time. So we have got full-time admin staff, multiple of them, where one of them sole job is just to keep these details up to date, because people keep moving between agencies. So if an email bounces, we basically ring them on their phone number, because phone number doesn't change often. We then update their new email ID, right? So using this click of button, we send 400 emails, just we schedule it and it goes. So it's very smooth for us. where it goes as a personalized email, dear first name of the agent, and then everything, including the buyer's brief. And then, yeah. So we keep sending this frequently because as soon as we get a client onboarded, we make sure we are sending this out in the region that we are targeting. So we might have 40 plus smart list now, right? For a smaller city, we just have a single smart list. For a bigger region like Melbourne, we basically segregated based on which part of Melbourne we are targeting. Say, for example, you can see something for Southeast. We have got more smart lists there. Yeah, but this is how we do it, right? Because we have to keep doing it on a bulk basis. We really can't afford to do one-on-one emails. But then again, this can be done by our admin staff in 5 minutes. But then the real beauty is that we then keep calling, like say, for example, if I'm looking for a property in Perth, I'll keep ringing these agents, or the buyer's agents who are working with the client will keep phoning agents. They'll keep ringing them and say, for example, if they are making 50 phone calls or for 30 phone calls, they would know. They'll keep notes in their own portals. We have got workflow management tools where we are keeping detail of what the interactions were. And if the agent says, man, you need to follow up in 3 days, we have got automated systems in the background, which reminds the buyer's agent that we need to be ringing them in 3 days. So that way, like we are using a lot of systems and processes in place, which helps us being efficient. But again, this is how we do things. So, but essentially we are doing the same thing. So how a buyer's agent can support the process, right? So while the focus on today's session is on understanding the pre-market and off-market opportunities, it's worth briefly noting on how working with the buyer's agents can sometimes streamline the experience, especially from the sales agent perspective. See, agents may be more comfortable sharing off-market properties with someone they already know or have worked with before, right? If we have done 2 transactions with an agent, he knows how we work. And if he's comfortable working, he would just be giving us. So in all the markets that we are operational in, we develop very good relationship with some agents that we start getting that first-hand opportunity. And that really, like nobody has got access to that. And that is where we provide really a good value add. Buyer's agent also often have got a pre-qualifying process. They always, like in even for us, we have got our discovery calls where we make sure that the client is finance ready and they are the right fit for us, right? So we are pre-qualifying and we are making sure that the client is financial ready, which reduces the uncertainty in the deal. So they love working with the buyer's agents because once a buyer, and yeah, so also like in terms of if the buyer's agent is throwing a number out, they know they are professionals, they've done their whole due diligence and they would be abiding by their numbers, right? Because if some guy who is not a buyer's agent is ringing them, they do not have a confidence, like even if they accept their offer verbally, would they be signing their contract? That happens quite a lot. Like you talk to agents and you'll keep hearing these stories. So they want to protect their time and efforts there. And then a long-standing relationship again with local agents can lead to earlier or more consistent communication. Like you can, again, there are so many agents and markets that we are active in that, man, we keep these relationships live and with constant communication, and that just provides us a good value add and benefits to our buyers. And then offers from buyers agents, as I mentioned, are typically realistic based on market understanding, helping maintain trust with selling agents. In some cases, reliability and ease of process may matter more than offer price alone. So say, for example, if I'm offering on a property at $650,000 and there is another buyer that comes at 660, but the agent doesn't know them and they have done 2 transactions with us, they know how efficient and smooth it might be, then in that case, they themselves, though they are under obligation in some states to be putting all the offers to the vendor, but then in that case, they will be educating the vendor that this is coming from a pre-qualified buyer's agents, like who has got, sorry, pre-qualified client, but the other buyer, I'm not sure. So in that case, sometimes if for the vendor, the certainty in deal is more important, like it happens quite a lot, like not always the highest price offer wins. We see a lot of times when we win the deal, but the highest price was higher than us. But then as long as you know what the vendor wants and you can customize your offer according to that, then that could be a win-win for both. Right. So buyer's agent, again, like most of the buyer's agents now, like I think we do. So most of the buyer's agent travel to these locations that they're buying in frequently. Like we keep traveling frequently. And the reason is not only understand the ground fundamentals, what is basically filtered by data, but then also develop relationships with these selling agents and real estate professionals in general, with property managers and selling agents. Because if you meet them for lunches and dinners, which we usually do, then that is how you build relationships, right? So once you build those relationships, it really gets difficult. They like once I have got a relationship with an agent, and if I know a property is coming to you, and even if it is on market, I know there is a very high likelihood that I'll be able to grab it. Yeah. So that is okay. So why selling agent often trust buyers agents more than direct buyers? So these are again some of the top points that I touched earlier. So strong local presence. Buyers agents are regularly active in the area, often handling multiple purchases and not just one of transaction like most individual buyers. So buyer might be buying one or two properties in the area. A buyer's agent is doing repeated transactions for multiple clients in a market which is very favorable for growth, right? So because they've got local strong presence, they understand streets very well. They are like if even if they are complaining about a property, their complaints are very genuine based on their experience, local experience of the market. They are not unrealistic and in their expertise there because the expectations there because they have been in the market for some time. And then established real estate relationships, as I earlier touched upon, right? So once you build a rapport, trust with them, then it really gets easier for them to trust you for the transactions. Pre-qualified buyers, again, as I touched before, so the buyers that most buyers agents on board are pre-qualified. They make sure that they've got the finance approval, they have got the right mindset to invest. That is also very, very important. You may have pre-approval, but if you are not mentally ready to invest, then it always becomes a challenge. Not for us, but for anyone, right? Yep. Okay, so then risk versus reward, right? Even if a direct buyer offers 5,000 more, an agent may still lead towards a buyer's agent's offer because it feels more reliable being pre-qualified by the buyer's agent and less likely to fall through, right? Because if we are pre-qualifying that they have got a pre-approval, then they would know that even though we are putting a subject to finance clause, there is more likely that our offer will go through because a buyer's agent is in most cases working with the people who have got the pre-approval ready. Right. And then avoiding rework. See, real estate agents are like everyone else, like you, right? You are, say, for example, you're IT professional working in your day job, you're coding, writing programs, and in those programs, you don't want to do the rework, right? If you can get it done the right in the first attempt, why would you always want to be avoiding rework, right? Same with agents, like if they know there are two offers, one is 5,000 higher but he doesn't have confidence, the other one is 5,000 lower but he has got a lot of confidence, he'll just avoid the rework, man. Because if a deal falls through, it's not just the contract part which is just the admin stuff, it's a lot more than that. They have to do open homes, they have to again go through the whole process to sell that property through. Again, some of the benefits. See, accessing off-market and pre-market opportunities can give you a major edge, but success starts with the right preparation. Always understand that. That means getting very clear on your finances, researching the market, and defining exactly what you're looking for. Working with a buyer's agent can add great value through the access of such deals, right? And their expertise in due diligence, negotiations, protecting your best interest. But with the right preparation and mindset, you can absolutely do it on your own. You just need to be following exactly the same steps that I've defined, right? Exactly the same steps. Sometimes it may not be worth your time, worth your efforts, establishing those relationships, doing that work. For us, it's always an economy of scale. So say, for example, if I've traveled recently to a region where I've spent, I think, 3.5 grand in 5 days, meeting people, gifting them, having lunches, dinners, right? Uh, for me, it makes sense because with this agent, if I do 15 transactions, it's only $200 per transaction, right? But if a client for a single property has to do that and then he has to spend another 5 days building that database, that may not be worth their time. But it's definitely doable. If you think you have got time, energy, efforts, you can definitely do it by your own, right? And also you need to be loving the process. People like who are working as a buyer's agent, especially us, like we are like all passionate professionals who love our work. So whether you work with a professional or go it alone, success comes down to being clear, confident, strategic, and committed to the process. Okay. So if you need help with your investment journey, right? So if you're looking for an expert support who can help you formulate the right strategy for you, if you want something more than that, right? Like if you want them to be helping you with the right regions, right suburbs, source properties, pre-market, off-market, due diligence, negotiations, because we negotiate at two stages. So negotiations and then everything else, right? So we are always available and reachable.